Hello and welcome to a special edition of Thrust Over the World. I'm joined today by probably the most talked about man in the world at the moment, Julian Assange. He's the founder of Wikileaks website and so on, which is currently releasing over a quarter of a million confidential, though not necessarily top secret, American diplomatic cables. He's here in the UK fighting extradition to Sweden, where he's wanted on charges of sexual behaviour, sexual crimes. He's here now, though, and we'll start, obviously, and then continue with him. Julian, just to start with, do you feel that any state has a right, any government has a right to have secrets at all, ideally?
There's a practical need to have secrets in certain circumstances for particular bodies and institutions. That is a long-term matter of history. Your doctor has a need to keep your medical records secret in nearly, but not all, circumstances. But that is not to say that all others must obey that need. Media has a right and an obligation to the public to get out information that the public needs to know. Similarly, some intelligence services have an obligation to go about their activities to the best of their ability, and that sometimes involves secrecy. But what is not a right is for a general or Hillary Clinton to say that they want to use the criminal law on every person in the country to stop talking about embarrassing information that has been revealed from her institution or from the US military. She does not have the right to proclaim what the law is. That's a matter for the court. She does not have the right to use the coercive power of police, armed police, to stop journalists and publishers from publishing. She does not have that right.
What about the right that, for instance, that the Brits and the Americans and others had to conceal where they were going to strike back at Germany, where in France they were going to strike back? The revelation of that secret ahead of time could have destroyed the whole attempt to strike back at Germany. Would that be valid?
Well, we don't need to go to hypotheticals. We have a 4-year publishing history. During that time, we have published millions of documents. We can see what actually happens in practice in the 21st century with our organisation, with me as editor-in-chief. And what we see, there is not a single instance of anyone being physically harmed by what we've done. There's not even a single incident of a government alleging that we have that. Not even the Pentagon alleged that. In fact, the Pentagon admits that it cannot find a single incident of anyone being harmed.
Do you, at the moment, fear the possibility of some form or other of being delivered back to the United States?
It's a serious problem. I mean, lawyers are discussing this every day. US officials are making public statements that they are trying to do that. The Attorney General, Eric Holder, spokespeople for the Justice Department and so on. There is pressure that is being applied to one of our alleged sources, Bradley Manning, in his prison cell. He is a young former intelligence analyst being held in Quantico, Virginia for some 6 months now, prior to trial. And there is pressure on him through his physical cell conditions, according to his lawyer David Coombs, to coerce him into testifying against me or against our organisation, to try and suggest that there is some kind of conspiracy to commit espionage, which there is not. I've never heard of his name before it appeared in the media, but that's what they're trying to push for. It's a serious business. And why are they going after WikiLeaks? Well, they want to stop this publication of information that embarrasses them. But why are they going after me? There is a particular reason, which is they have been tremendously embarrassed. The State Department, the US military, has been tremendously embarrassed by these abuses being revealed. So what do you do if you're embarrassed? Well, you want to save face. How do you save face? You have to slap the face of the person who is perceived to have embarrassed you. And because I am the most recognisable person for WikiLeaks, I am the target.
And that makes you... Therefore, in that situation, do you think... We said deportation, we're talking about basically there, but do you fear that you will end up in an American jail?
That's a problem. My lawyers certainly fear that I will end up in American jail, either directly through extradition from here or from extradition from Sweden. That is a serious problem.
Which would be more dangerous to you? Is it worse if they're trying to extradite you from the UK or from Sweden, or are you equally vulnerable from either to the United States?
Advice from my lawyers is that Sweden is much more dangerous.
Much more?
Much more dangerous.
Dangerous, yeah.
Because there is political... The way these extradition treaties are done, there is usually an exemption for political reasons. So you don't have to extradite someone if it's a political issue. And espionage is the classical political offence. So if they tried to frame publishing as espionage and then latched onto this conspiracy to commit espionage, that would then activate, if you like, a defence for saying that the extradition was political in nature.
Just going back for a moment to early days, when you co-founded WikiLeaks, what was your action motto, phrase? What was your basic aim?
Well, our phrase was "Courage is contagious," but which it is. That
that's a great slogan, incidentally.
Yes, we look at transatlantic aeroplane flight. In the 1930s, 1920s, this was one of the most heroic acts you could perform, and almost no one did it. Now everyone does it. Why? Because there's examples of other people doing it and succeeding. Now no one thinks anything about how courageous it is to get on an aeroplane to cross the Atlantic. So we could see early on that we could encourage, through successful examples, people to step forward to reveal abuses by governments. And by doing that, we could produce a more just civilization.
America was possibly your leading target, wasn't it? Not your only target, but your leading target.
No, it was actually the most closed societies in the beginning, and the most corrupt ones. And the United States is not the most closed or the most corrupt. On the other hand, what we found in practice was that the United States is, as the dominant empire, is connected to all the other countries and has a tendril in them. And being the largest security state, spending approximately the same amount as all the rest of the world combined on its military intelligence sector, it generates a tremendous amount of secrets. And being involved in two very unpopular wars in the United States, it also generates a lot of dissenters. And those dissenters tap into a great American tradition of free speech, of government accountability. And they're saying, my institution is not accountable in the way that I thought it was, that I told it was. And then they pass this material out. So that's why we have such a focus recently on the United States. It's not that we go asking for material from the United States, rather it is people within the United States, good people, dissenters in the United States, come forward and they give us material. We are source-driven. We can only publish what people are giving us. And in the United States, they are giving us a lot of material.
So that would mean that, therefore, as you say, you're source-driven, so you're never going to get a fair, equal share of material from China, North Korea, etc.
China we are getting some decent material from and have, as it's becoming more internet connected. North Korea, you're right, we haven't received anything directly from North Korea. North Korea is blockaded from the internet, so that's not a surprise. But we do get, because the world is connected, actually we do have a lot of material about North Korea from other countries, providing angles on what is going on in North Korea.
Do you ever pay for the secrets you get?
No. We have no philosophical objection to paying, actually.
You just need the money.
Why should journalists and lawyers be the only one to be compensated for their risks when actually it's the source who is taking the greatest risk? No, it is simply being that we are overwhelmed with the amount of material that courageous whistleblowers are giving to us. So we're not at the stage where that extra incentive needs to be given, but we have absolutely no philosophical objection to that.
How do you finance the operation? And is it profit-making or loss-making?
Well, until the beginning of this year, I financed, together with some of my friends, the entire operation, with the majority of the money coming from me. Actually, there's a reason why investigative journalism has never been historically funded by the government. It has not been funded by big business. It has been funded by readers and advertisers.
And do you think of yourself, do you see references to yourself as anarchic or an anarchist? Is that an accurate description of what you are?
No, it's not at all an accurate description.
Why not?
Well, that's not what we do. We're an organisation that goes about and has a long record all over the world of exposing abuses by exposing concrete documentation, proof of bad behaviour. That's not anarchy. That's what people do when they're civil, is that they engage in organised activity that promotes justice.